Princeton University is a very fancy place. It's very fancy. They have eating clubs, which are like fraternities, but in multi-million-dollar mansions where you're served lunch on porcelain. And then you get to talk about how much Daddy has put in your trust fund this year. Princeton's a very fancy place. No question about it. But Princeton University, because it's an elite school now, and I don't even know if we should call them elite because who knows why people even get into these schools anymore. There's an open letter, though, that has been published there. Remember, this is, I think, considered the number 3 Ivy League school after Harvard and Yale. A lot of people would put Stanford ahead of it, but Princeton's still certainly a very internationally renowned institution. And here is what this is: a faculty letter signed by, 100, 150 professors. A huge number of professors have signed this thing. And it's on anti-blackness as a foundational element to America. In fact, the very first line is, quote, anti-blackness is foundational to America. Wow. That's the very first line of this letter. And then they get into a discussion of how we deal with this. And the way we deal with this is anti-racism. Now, many of us have thought that the only obligation we have as individuals and as people is to not be racist, right? Just don't be racist. That's okay. And then you're not a racist. And then what's the problem? And racism is treating people or thinking of people as less than or thinking of them differently because of their skin color. Very straightforward definition. Don't do that. You're not being racist. But no, anti-racism is the affirmative taking of steps demanded of you by the woke left in order to deal with the, as it is said in this letter from Princeton University, anti-blackness that is foundational to America, end quote. So anti-racism now turns into a whole list of demands. Now there are demands that are coming with all of this too, right? George Floyd is killed, asphyxiated in Minnesota by a police officer. National movement, and now here we are, Princeton University demanding additional pay and perks for professors of color. Hey, well, that's quite a, but this is the way it works, right? This is the way the movement was always going to conduct itself. Here's what they write. It plays a role, anti-blackness, in where we live and where we are welcome. It influences the level of health care we receive. It determines the degree of risk we are assumed to pose in context from retail to lending and beyond. It informs the expectations and tactics of law enforcement. Anti-black racism has hamstrung our political process. It is rampant even in our most progressive communities, and it plays a powerful role at institutions like Princeton, despite declared values of diversity and inclusion. So anti-blackness, according to this open letter written by professors at Princeton, signed by professors at Princeton, anti-blackness is a constant failing of Princeton University, even though Princeton University thinks of itself as very diverse and progressive and all the rest of it, right? Not enough. So you'd say, well, okay, what are we supposed to do about it? Let's just assume let's just accept this premise for a second, that the country is still so racist, and we don't talk about this enough. We talk about it every day. We talk about this all the time. CNN, I've left this out of today's show, I shouldn't have, is creating a new, I believe it is called a, quote, race coverage team, end quote, to focus on race issues at CNN, specifically in the newsroom. So they're going to have a race, you talk about your beats in the news, in the news world. Race is now going to be a specialization at CNN for journalists. I'm not making this up. This is what Jeff Zucker said yesterday. They came out and talked about this. So, okay, well, what can we do? How do you get to be an anti-racist? Is it enough to just treat people of color as fellow human beings deserving of all the same rights and dignity and decency that you'd give to any person, and to be an advocate for treating everyone equally under the law and make sure that everyone is judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin? Oh, no. That's not anti-racism. Anti-racism is, quote, create a center specifically dedicated to anti-racism at Princeton University. Reward the invisible work done by faculty of color with course relief and summer salary. That's right, additional financial perks. Reconsider the use of standardized testing at Princeton University, which research shows to be strongly correlated with the underrepresentation of people of color. Acknowledge on the Princeton homepage that the university is sited on indigenous land. The statement should explicitly acknowledge that Princeton University's land is unceded and, quote, acknowledge the land of this university is the unceded traditional territory of the Nanticoke Lenni Lenape tribal nation. I mean, oh my gosh. That's right. Bend the knee. Do as we say. All of our give us money, give us privileges, give us what we want, or else you're racist. That's what it's turned into at Princeton. And it's not the only place. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.